What would you say if a cop leaned in close and said, "Come on, just between us, tell me what really happened"? If you trust that moment, you can talk yourself into handcuffs. The safest thing you can say is not an excuse, not a story, and not the truth as you see it. Before I give you the exact words, hit subscribe right now because this is the kind of video you won't remember until you're nervous on the side of the road. Smash like too, because what you learn here could save your freedom when a friendly voice is really a fishing trip. Here's what you're about to learn. First, the one sentence that shuts down fake friendly talk. Second, the question that tells you if you're stuck or free to go. Third, the line that blocks consent searches before they start. And fourth, how to use all of it without sounding rude, angry, or scared. Let me show you exactly why this matters so much. Cops are trained to keep you talking. They don't always come in hard, sometimes they come in soft. They smile, they lower their voice, they act like they're helping you. They say things like, "I'm just trying to understand your side," or "help me help you," or "just between us." Most people have no idea that this is often the most dangerous part of the stop. Not the lights, not the ticket, not even the threat. It's the casual chat. Because once you start talking, you start guessing. You start filling silence. You start giving facts they didn't have 5 seconds ago. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the pattern is always the same. The driver thinks the danger is over. That's when the real damage starts. Now let's talk about the mistake almost everyone makes. You think honesty will calm things down. You think if you explain enough, the officer will see you're a good person. You think staying quiet looks guilty. Here's the reality. Talking feels safe, but talking gives away control. Every extra word can be twisted, cut up, or repeated later in a way that hurts you. You say you had one beer and now they hear drinking. You say you were coming from a friend's house and now they want names, times, and addresses. You say you were kind of in a rush and now you just helped prove the stop. Listen closely because this is critical. Your job is not to win the officer over with a story. Your job is to protect yourself with simple, calm words. This is 100% legal. You can be respectful and still say almost nothing. You can hand over your license, registration, and insurance when required, and still refuse to give them the conversation they want. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. Friendly questions are still questions. Soft voices still collect evidence. And just between us never means between just you two. The first thing you say when the officer starts that friendly chat is this: "Officer, I want to remain silent, and I want a lawyer if you're investigating a crime." Word for word, memorize that line. If you want it even simpler, say this: "I'm not answering questions without a lawyer." That line is clean, calm, and strong. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it is clear. It tells the officer you are not playing the guessing game. It tells the camera you asked for your rights, and it stops you from talking yourself deeper into trouble. Why does this work so well? Because silence alone is not always enough. You can't just stare, shrug, or mumble and expect full protection. The law often wants you to say clearly that you are using your right to stay silent. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In plain English, if you want the shield, you need to say, "You want the shield." That is why this line matters so much. Watch what happens when drivers do it the bad way. Bad way. Most drivers say, "I've got nothing to hide, ask me anything." Then they start explaining little details that turn into big problems. They guess times wrong. They contradict themselves. They admit things they didn't need to admit. Then the officer keeps digging. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I'm not answering questions without a lawyer." Then the fishing trip loses steam. The officer may not like it, but now the conversation gets smaller. The room for mistakes gets smaller too. Here's the reality. Officers are allowed to use tricks in questioning. They can act like they already know everything. They can act like helping them will help you. They can even suggest that silence makes you look bad. Do not fall for that. There is no gold star for talking. There is no prize for being the most helpful suspect. Former police officers have confirmed this works because once you stop feeding facts, the officer has to work with what they actually have, not what you hand them. Now, does that mean you should be rude? No. Stay calm. Keep your hands visible. Give required documents. Use a normal tone. Then go back to your line. If they ask where you're coming from, you repeat it. If they ask what's in the car, you repeat it. If they ask why you seem nervous, you repeat it. You do not argue about the Constitution on the roadside. You do not debate. You do not teach law. You just protect yourself with one sentence. The legal backup here is Miranda v. Arizona and Berghuis v. Thompkins. In simple English, Miranda says you have the right to stay silent and ask for a lawyer. Berghuis teaches the hard lesson that you need to say it clearly. That's why your exact words matter so much. Have you ever been hit with the "just be honest with me" line during a stop? Drop a comment below, because once you hear it, you'll never hear it the same way again. The second move is just as powerful, and this one tells you whether the stop is over or still growing. You look at the officer and say this: "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Those exact 9 words. Memorize them. Let me show you exactly why this question changes everything. A lot of people keep talking because they don't know if they can end the conversation. They stand there hoping the officer will magically release them. Meanwhile, the officer keeps asking more questions, waiting for consent, nervous behavior, or some small slip. This question forces clarity. If the officer says you're free to leave, the game changes. Leave calmly. Stop talking. End it. If the officer says you're being detained, now everyone knows this is not a casual chat. That matters later. It matters on body cam, it matters in court. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because it draws a bright line. Either you are free or you are not. And if you're not, then the officer needs lawful reasons to keep stretching things out. Watch what happens when drivers don't ask. Bad way. Most drivers say, "I guess I'll just stay here and clear things up." Then the stop drags on. More questions come. More chances to slip come. Sometimes a drug dog comes, sometimes backup comes. Good way, smart drivers say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the officer has to choose, either let you go or own the detention. Both are better than the gray zone. This is 100% legal. You are not resisting, you are not obstructing. You are asking a clean question about your status, and that status matters because police cannot turn a simple stop into an endless roadside interview just because they feel like it. Rodriguez v. United States says a traffic stop cannot be extended beyond its mission just to go on a fishing trip without proper reason. In plain English, if the stop is about a brake light, it should stay about the brake light unless something real changes. Now let's be smart about tone. You don't bark this line. You don't spit it out like a movie character. You say it calmly. "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave?" If they ignore you and keep asking questions, you can repeat it once, then you go quiet again. If they tell you to stay, you stay. If they say you can go, go. Do not linger. Do not keep chatting. Do not ask if they're mad. Silence is your friend once the door opens. And here's something people miss. This question protects innocent people too. You may think, "I didn't do anything, so why leave?" Because staying only gives them more raw material, more words, more stress, more chances to misread your face, your hands, your tone, or your answers. An innocent person can still say the wrong thing. An innocent person can still get arrested. Your safety is not in your innocence alone. Your safety is in your discipline. The third tactic stops one of the biggest traps on the road. You look at the officer and say this: "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. Memorize that line too. If they ask again, you say it again. If they make it sound casual, you still say it. If they say, "If you've got nothing to hide, you won't mind," you still say it. Watch what happens when drivers miss this moment. The officer says, "Mind if I take a quick look?" And it sounds harmless. It sounds tiny. It sounds like saying no would make you look guilty. But consent is a giant legal gift. Once you hand it over, you make their job easier. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Sure, go ahead. I don't have anything illegal." Then a simple look turns into a full search. Every bag gets opened. Every pocket gets attention. Every item gets a second story attached to it. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then the officer has to rely on actual legal grounds instead of your permission. That sentence matters because consent changes the whole fight. Schneckloth versus Bustamonte is one of the big cases here. In plain English, it says a search can be valid if you voluntarily agree. That means your calm little "yeah, okay" can wipe out one of your strongest protections. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. So do not donate your rights because you feel awkward. Now, important point. Refusing consent does not mean the search will never happen. If the officer has another legal reason, they may still search. But that is not the point. The point is you never help them by giving permission. You never make it easier. You make them carry their own legal burden. That matters in court, that matters on camera, that matters if the case later turns on whether you agreed. Watch what happens when the officer pushes emotionally. They may say, "So you do mind?" They may say, "Why are you nervous?" They may say, "Only guilty people refuse." Ignore the bait. Refusal is not guilt. Refusal is not aggression. Refusal is protection. Former police officers have confirmed this works because clear refusal takes away the easy shortcut they hope for. You also need to know this. You do not physically block a search, ever. You do not grab the door. You do not pull things back. You do not swat hands away. You use words only, calm words, repeated words. "I do not consent to any searches." Then let the camera record the rest. That is how smart people protect themselves, not with force, with clarity. This tactic also works outside the car. If they want your phone, your bag, or your trunk, the words stay the same. I do not consent to any searches. Keep it simple. Keep it boring. Keep it on repeat. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it is easy for judges and juries to understand. Clear words leave less room for lies later. 90% of drivers don't know what comes next. If you're still here, you're already ahead of almost everyone on the road. Show me you're serious by hitting that like button, because this next part ties everything together. The fourth tactic is the one that keeps you from ruining the first three. After you give your line, you stop filling the silence. You say this, if needed. I've said all I'm going to say. Short, calm, done. Then you shut up. This sounds simple, but it's where most people fail. They invoke, then they keep talking. They refuse consent. Then they explain why. They ask if they're free to leave. Then they keep joking around. That destroys the power of the earlier lines. Bad way. Most drivers say, I want a lawyer, but honestly, here's what happened. Then everything after but becomes evidence. Good way. Smart drivers say, I've said all I'm going to say. Then the officer has less to work with, and the camera shows you were consistent. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and this is the pattern that separates safe drivers from panicked ones. The safe drivers don't improvise. They don't try to sound clever. They don't try to out-talk trained questioners. They use their line, and then they let silence do the heavy lifting. Watch what happens when you keep talking after invoking. You start trying to sound normal, you laugh, you ramble, you correct yourself, you add details. Now the officer has fresh material again. The door you just closed is open again. That is why the final move matters so much. Silence is not awkward. Silence is strategy. And yes, the officer may try to restart you. Nobody said you're under arrest. I'm just trying to help. This is your chance. If there's nothing in the car, why not just tell me? Do not chase those lines. Do not answer the emotional pull. Just repeat your sentence if needed. I've said all I'm going to say. Or go back to the first line. I'm not answering questions without a lawyer. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because consistency wins. The cleaner your words, the harder it is to twist them later. Now let's put the legal pieces in plain English. Miranda v. Arizona says you have the right to stay silent and ask for a lawyer during questioning. That means police cannot force you to become the star witness against yourself. Berghuis versus Thompkins teaches that you should say your right out loud, clearly, and early. Just sitting there quietly is not always enough. Schneckloth vs. Bustamonte says consent can make a search legal, even when you could have said no. That is why your refusal line matters so much. And Rodriguez v. United States says a traffic stop cannot be stretched out for extra investigation without proper reason. In 7th grade English, that means a stop for one thing cannot become a never-ending hunt just because the officer wants more. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, and every tactic I gave you fits right into those rules. Ask for silence. Ask for a lawyer. Ask if you're free to go. Refuse consent. Then stop talking. Now picture a real stop. You're driving home at night. The lights flash behind you. Your heart jumps. The officer says you rolled through a stop sign. You hand over your license and insurance. So far normal. Then comes the soft voice. Hey, just between us, have you had anything to drink tonight? Most drivers go wrong right here. They smile nervously and say, just one at dinner, but I'm totally fine. Now the officer has drinking, a timeline, and a reason to keep digging. Then he asks, where were you coming from? The driver says, my friend's place. More details, more questions. Then comes, mind if I take a quick look in the car? The driver says, sure, I guess. That stop just got much worse. Now watch the right way. Same stop, same lights, same nerves. You stay calm. You hand over the documents. The officer says, just between us, have you had anything tonight? You answer, officer, I'm not answering questions without a lawyer. He tries again. You stay calm. He keeps chatting. You ask, am I being detained or am I free to leave? If he says the stop is still going, you wait quietly. Then he says, you mind if I search the car? You answer, officer, I do not consent to any searches. He pushes. You don't argue. You say, I've said all I'm going to say. That's it. No speech, no debate, no volunteering. See the difference? In the wrong version, you build the case for them. In the right version, you make them build it themselves. In the wrong version, you hand over your rights because you want to seem nice. In the right version, you stay respectful without becoming evidence. That is the whole point of this video. Next week, I'm dropping the video on what to say when cops claim they smell weed. Subscribe right now so you don't miss it, because that line gets people searched every single day and most drivers have no clue how to respond. So remember the 4 moves. First, when the friendly questions start, say, I'm not answering questions without a lawyer. Second, if the stop keeps drifting, ask, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Third, if they want access to your car, bag, or phone, say, I do not consent to any searches. Fourth, once you've said your line, stop talking and let silence protect you. You do not need to be rude. You do not need to be brave. You just need to be clear. The power here is not in sounding smart. The power is in giving them less. Hit subscribe so you catch that next video on the smell trick. Smash like if this just changed how you'll handle a stop. And drop a comment telling me which exact line you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there.